So regarding the risk factors, here we have seen. So now itself you can recollect what can be the major risk factors for development of this particular urinary tract infection. So I will read one by one. Inability or failure to empty the bladder completely. The bladder is not being emptied completely. Now, obstructed urinary flow. Urinary flow is being obstructed. So, for this obstruction of urinary flow, there are a lot of reasons. The first one, congenital abnormalities, we have already discussed. Urethral strictures, that also we have discussed. Contracture of the bladder neck. Bladder neck contraction means what? Because in bladder, the what is the function of bladder? Bladder will be store the urine, it will collect the urine, store the urine, and it will empty the urine. So the muscle contraction, the round as well as the linear muscle contraction is very important in case of bladder. So this muscle contraction is not being happen properly means what will happen? That will be leads to contraction of the bladder neck, and this will cause the improper emptying of the urine. That is the reason we have added this particular point in this obstructed urinary flow. Now bladder tumors. Bladder tumors means again it's a kind of obstruction we have already seen. Calculi. We should be able to connect here calculi in the ureters or kidneys. So the urinary flow is getting obstructed. Then compression of the ureters. Ureter compression. Ureter compression can be due to several causes. That is, it can be either tumors in the ureter or any pregnancy related compression. Anything can be due to compression, can be leads to compression of ureters. So these all points can be a cause for obstruction of the urinary flow, and this is the second risk factor for urinary tract infection. Now just move on to another point, that is decreased natural host defense or immunosuppression. We have already seen such points, as this is just a repetition. So host defense means the the human body have an ability to fight against the foreign bodies or the infection. So that is natural host defense mechanisms. That is being disabled due to any immunosuppression therapy or any after any transplantation or any inborn diseases, immunosuppressive disorders, anything can be there. So that cases again UTI can be occur. Then instrumentation of the urinary tract, that can be either catheterization, we have already studied, cystoscopic procedures, any procedures. So I hope you are able to remember in the previous class, that is in the management of renal calculi, we have studied lithotripsy and lithotripsy procedure, that is the lysing of the stone. So here we have used some of the endoscopic instruments such as cystoscopy, uretroscopy, lephroscopy, a lot of instruments we have inserted into the urinary bladder in order to remove the particular stone. So such procedures included in this instrumentation of the urinary tract. Then inflammation or abrasion of the urethral mucosa. Any urethral mucosal inflammation again. Contributing conditions such as diabetes mellitus. So we have already studied the increased glucose level create an infection-prone environment in the urinary tract and pregnancy, neurologic disorders, gout, altered mental status caused by incomplete emptying of the bladder, and the urinary stasis may happen because of the loss of muscle function properly for a aged person or any person with altered status, that is mental status, the muscle tone, neurogenic conditions. So this is the another risk factors that may contribute to development of urinary tract infection. Clear? Now, now we are going to study two subheadings, that is mechanisms that maintain the sterility of the bladder. One thing we have to keep in mind. Now, defense against bacterial invasion of the urinary tract. Some of the protective measures like protective factors are there. These two things we have to add under the risk factors, because any change in this mechanism, any changes in this mechanism, that may lead to development of urinary tract infection. Hope you all are clear with these two headings, that is mechanisms maintain the sterility of the bladder. Now, defense against the bacterial invasion of the urinary tract. So, whenever these points or these mechanisms are getting altered, not at all properly working, it is dysfunction, the patient may have the development chance to development of the urinary tract infection. So the first one, physical barrier of urethra. Urethra is having a physical barrier. That is, the physical barrier means while invasion of the bacteria happens, that will be prevented by the urethra. That is the physical barrier of the urethra. It will be um, uh, through this urinary flow, and the entrance is through the urethra, so that will be prevented by this physical barrier. Now, urine flow. We have studied urine flow. It is a one direction urine flow. There is a proper, no, there is no backward flow of the urine. That reflux we have already studied. So these all are the things coming under urine flow. Now, uretero-vesical junction competence. Competence means it's an ability. It's an proper positive ability. We can call it like this. Call it like that. So, uretero-vesical junction means it is the junction between ureter and the bladder. So, in that area, due to any pressure changes and all, we can have a return flow or the improper emptying. Everything may happen, but it all never happen in normal urinary tract. There will be proper maintenance of this particular junction. That is uretero-vesical junction is properly working. That's why the proper drainage of the urine and the flow of the urine is getting maintained. Now, various bacteria, antibacterial enzymes. In the tract itself, there are a lot of uh, antibacterial enzymes are present. So that may helps to kill the bacteria. Antibacterial enzymes will be kill the bacteria whenever the flora is getting altered or a new pathogen organism is getting into the tract. Then antibodies. There are a lot of innate antibodies are there. Primary, secondary antibodies are there. So these particular antibodies may also help the person to get sterility, to maintain the sterility of the bladder. That is just action against the infection. Then anti-adherent effects mediated by the mucosal cells. So this is one of the particular property that our bladder mucosa cell is having. So whenever a new particle or any particle is coming to attach or adhere to this mucosal cells in the bladder wall and all, an anti-adherent effects will be occur, and it will be cause the rejection of these particular particles that may adhere to the bladder wall. So these all are the mechanisms is already present within our body to maintain the sterility of the bladder. So I will read once again: the physical barrier of urethra, urine flow, uretero-vesical junction competence, various antibacterial enzymes, antibodies, and anti-adherent effect mediated by the mucosal cells. So these things you have to keep in mind and you have to by heart. Then only you can move on to the pathophysiology and how the process of development of UTI is being occurred and how we could able to treat in later. Clear? So our next point, that is defenses against the bacterial invasion of the urinary tract. Defenses against bacterial invasion of the urinary tract. So we are having increase in the normal flow. That is, the normal flow will be, in particular cases, the normal flow of the urine may be body is able to increase. Then shedding of the bladder epithelial cells. That is, the bladder epithelial cells are continuously shedding. Then otherwise they will be irritated and will problem further cell mucosal problem and further development of any serious issues. So the epithelial cells shedding will be there. So the new bladder epithelial cells will be developed and it will be very healthy. Now we are having glycosaminoglycan, GAG. I'll repeat, glycosaminoglycan. Okay, so the glycosaminoglycan, this is one kind of amino acid, that is the protein which is usually present in the various several human body or organs such as bladder, uh, any mucosal layers are filled with this particular protein content, that is glycosaminoglycan, and this will be helping to prevent any injuries or any irritation to the particular mucosal membrane and all. If